Dear brothers and sisters, dear young friends, welcome to our studio. We would like to continue today with our seminar about love, courtship, and marriage. It is a very important topic we're going to discuss this time. After studying about what is love, we would like to come to the next step, which is the logical build-up and our understanding of courtship and marriage according to the light of the Bible. And which is this next step? The next step is actually a question. A question that each one of us need to answer before we take steps to courtship, because before we begin even thinking about courtship and marriage. And this question is, are you ready to love? Maybe many of you will say, why is that so important? What is that so much in these questions, and why shall I be ready to love? According to the many opinion in the world, love is blind. Love is something that happened by accident, unexpected, quickly. We have a lot of illustration in this direction, like a small angel with a bow and arrow and hit your heart when you do not expect. This is why the expression falling in love, as you studied also the last time. But we need to understand that in the biblical context, we are not hit by the love. We are not surprised by the love. We do not fall in love. We do not enter blindly in love, but we have to grow. We have to climb up to reach to the high of this love. This is why this topic is very important. It's a question, are you ready to love? Let's consider one text of the inspired testimonies, which will bring us very much to think about how serious actually marriage is. The text reads, marriage to thousands is the most yielding yoke that can be worn. There are thousands that are mated but not matched. The book of heaven is burdened with the woes of wickedness and abuse that are hid under the mantle of marriage. This is why I warn the young who are of marriageable age to make haste slowly and the choice of the companion. The path of marriage life may appear beautifully and full of happiness, but you may be disappointed, as thousands of others have been. Dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, you can see that marriage is not a simple thing. You know, entering in a marriage relationship, it's full of mystery. In my country, Bulgarian, sometimes the people say that a marriage is like a man that have a big sack full of serpents. He put his hand inside, grabs one serpent and pulls up, and hopefully he will get one that is not poisonous. How terrible sound that, but it's not true in according to the biblical context. The biblical context speaks about marriage that is full of preparation, a conscious step. A love is not just erotical feeling, but as we understood with the last topic, love is an intellectual potential, strength and power. It's a principle, a gift that comes from God. Let's consider another important part of this seminar. In order to reach a healthy marriage, in order to enter in marriage with no experimental desire but well prepared, we need to reach maturity. What is maturity in marriage? Or when do we achieve maturity? This is what we're going to study exactly in this hour of our seminar. The next topic connected with the preparation for love is responsibility. Because if love is something intellectual, if love is something that we need to consider with our mind, if love is something that God gave us inspired by His Holy Spirit, we need to understand that love is not just a feeling but more than that. And we need to be ready, to be responsible to face the important duties and things that are facing us by entering in courtship and marriage. The next very important point entering in marriage is the self-control. If we have not achieved the point to have self-control, we're going to face tremendous temptation and tremendous difficulties by entering in courtship and marriage. Perhaps we're going to transgress the commandments of the Lord, and we're going to have tremendous consequences, negative consequences, which the Lord is warning us about. Let's continue our study point by point. First, we will study about maturity. You can see here in the picture a person climbing up the rocks. And this climbing up is very similar like climbing up of preparation to marriage. Let's consider one text of the inspired testimonies. The cases of premature marriage multiply. Boys and girls enter into the marriage relation with an unripe love. Immature judgment, without noble elevated feelings, and take upon themselves the marriage woes, wholly led by their boyish and girlish passions. What is going on? Let's analyze a little bit this text. The first problem we found here is that many people enter in premature marriages. That means they are not prepared. They have not reached the maturity. And what kind of maturity is needed in order that this marriage or this courtship can be successful? In the very text we see different things. Boys and girls enter into the marriage relationship with an unripe love. The first things we need to understand is that the boys and the girls entering into courtship, they do not understand what love is. So the first point of maturity which we need to achieve is understanding, the proper understanding excuse me, of that what love is. That's why our seminar also deal with this important topic. The other problem which the young people usually have, that they have an immature judgment. Why did they have this immature judgment? Is explained in the rest of the text. Without noble and elevated feelings, and take upon themselves the marriage woes, wholly led by they boyish and girlish passions. The passions is the one that drive and push the young people into marriage. Why is the proper judgment so important? Dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, I think all of us, if you are young and if you are not so young, you have been young, and we know how the things feels. Imagine or try to remember that in your youth, when you have been in school, in primary, in secondary, and maybe in high school, they have always been these persons, both girls and boys, that have been very popular. Sometimes they have been considered as the heroes of the class. And which are these people that have been the heroes of the class? Usually these are the people who permit themselves things that nobody else permit them. These are the one that begin smoking the first. These are the one that drinks and they do a lot of things. These are the boys or the girls that the first enter in certain relationship, and they have boyfriends and they have girlfriends, and everybody else looks or seems like adoring them and dreaming to become also like them, to have these forbidden fruits as experience in their lives. What happened after 5 or 10 years? when the schoolmates or classmates comes together, usually these heroes in the school, they are the one that are drunkards, that remain in the street, that have no education, that have a very low qualified job. And these are the ones that have been so simple, invisible almost people in your class. These are the ones that have become engineers and lawyers, and they have obtained their high education, they have a good profession, and they have also a healthy marriages. What did that mean? This means that in a certain age, and especially in the time of our teenager development, we do not know what is right and what is wrong. We're still in a process of building up our proper understanding of what is right and what is wrong. Which person is really a good person, which person is not good, which is the character which I want to imitate in my life and adopt in my life, and which is the character I want to reject. This is the time, the teenager time, is when we build up our character, where we are looking for models in our lives. And this why we can very easily be confused by copying and being copycats to other classmates or to other friends. And finally, after years, we can understand that that was not really the proper choice we have taken. This is why the immature judgment or maturity for courtship and marriage is very, very important. We would like to consider another testimony. Our own college in Battle Creek have similar regulations to note not so strict. Such rules are indispensable to guard the young from danger of premature courtship and unwise marriage. Young people are sent to schools. Let me move a little bit high. Yeah. Young people are sent to schools by their parents to obtain an education, not to flirt with the opposite sex. What these things means, brothers and sisters, dear friends, that when we go to study, the worst things that can happen is that we waste our time by entering in courtship. Why? Because this kind of courtship will be a premature. The maturity need to be achieved. The maturity need to be climbed up. We need to step up in the platform of love. We need to step up in the platform of preparation and maturity for courtship and love. Let's continue with our text and see something more about that, what is maturity. And here is a very interesting definition what really love is. Love is a sentiment so sacred that but few know what it is. Once again, we understand that problem of immature or premature marriages or lack of maturity is the proper understanding what is love. Let's continue reading. It is the term used by not understand. The warm glow of an impulse, the fascination of one young person for another is not love. It does not deserve the name. True love has an intellectual basis, a deep, true knowledge of the object love. Very interesting text. What do we understand here? That the word love is misused. The word love is used just for anything, especially if you consider the American way of expression, you can see love, or the word love, just used for anything. People say, oh, I love my car, I love my camera, I love my computer. And according to the biblical syntaxis or the biblical background, this is impossible, because the word love have to be used to a person, have to be used to somebody who you really have a relationship with. But in the modern English language, the word love is totally out of the heaviness, out of purity. It's just used for anything. And that's what happened here. But the most important in this text to understand is that this warm glow of impulse, this fascination of one young person to another, is not love. And that's what happened the most of the time. Young people, girls and boys, brothers, sisters, maybe our daughters, maybe our sons, all of them pass through this experience. They have seen somebody when the hormones began to boil and this maturity begins its development in the time of teenagers. The teenager, they see another person, and that happens this magnetic attraction, and the word here is very well used. That is a fascination of the other person. Oh, what kind of wonderful girl. Oh, what kind of wonderful boy. And what happened after that? Oh, the girls are crying, they're falling in love, they're so attracted, they don't sleep. They are what? They are sick of love. You remember the word eros and how that is described in the biblical texts. But what did the spirit of prophecy say? This is not yet love. This kind of experience does not even deserve the name love. Imagine what kind of how important that is, dear brothers and sisters. The true love is not based on impulse, but is based on intellectual basis. We need to understand that love is principle. The divine love and the friendly love which we have is based on another kind of attraction, of knowing the character of the person, of dedication. Another testimony here explains us even more the importance of maturity before we enter to courtship and love. Let me move a little bit to another place in the screen. Yep. Remember, the impulsive love is perfectly blind. That's exactly what we were talking about. It will, as soon as be placed an unworthy object as worthy, command such a love to stand still and cool, give place to genuine thoughts and deep, earnest reflection. What happened here? We understand, dear friends, that we can be tremendously deceived by our emotions, deceived by this attraction, this magnetic attraction of young boys or girls when we are teenagers. Because we are still in process of development. We don't even know whom we exactly are. We have not yet developed our personality. We have not yet developed the idea, what do we want to do with our lives? It is interesting that many times boys and girls enter in courtship, they got married, and what happened after years, decades, they have kids and grow up, they realize that this marriage actually have not helped them develop their character and their gifts. And then in very advanced age of 50 and 60 years of age, they desire to begin studying in the university. They began to desire to be something or to achieve some career where it is already too late. And why did they do that? Because at the time when that was, they enter in courtship relationship. They married too early. They marry premature. Before they even have decided what they want to be, they enter into the marriage. Maturity, it's very, very important. And always the question is, are we ready for marriage? Are we able to love? Do we know what really love is? We would like to find out what the Bible says about maturity. And here is the famous Bible verse in 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 23. And the very God of peace sanctify you holy, and I pray God you whole spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless into the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. We need to understand that maturity does not come as accident. The maturity is not a just occasion, but it's something that we need to achieve, something that we need to reach. And here in the picture we have one marriage that is conducted in the top of the rock. And in order to reach to that place, all the participants in the marriage have to climb up the rock. It is a very funny situation. I don't want to say that everybody have to climb the rock and be married there, but it is a symbolically very interesting event, because actually in order to be able to be mature for marriage, we have to climb up a rock. Not a real literal rock, but we need to climb up spiritually, build up a character, and be sanctified to a certain level in order to achieve a happy marriage. Somebody can ask him questions. And what about if I enter in a marriage unprepared and mature? What is the problem? Yes, you can do that. You can do your experiment. The church will not stop you of doing it. The church cannot have not the intention to forbid marriages. But the church do have this duty to teach and prepare our young people, to give them a choice. And that is what we're doing now, giving a choice to all our young brothers, sisters, or visitors. Here is it. Sanctification or maturity need to be achieved in the area of the Spirit. We need to achieve the love of agape. In the level of the soul, we need to achieve of the love of filial, which is the friendly brotherly love. We need to build up a character that is able to love. And in the level of the body, we need to be prepared and to be mature to experience this erotic love. Otherwise, we can run in tremendous problem that can damage our health, our psychology, our understanding of the world, fill us with happiness or fill us with hatred. All these elements are very important in order to achieve maturity. And now we would like to see and study first what it means to be mature in the Spirit. Mature in the Spirit is described in very many Bible verses, but one Bible verse is like just made for our seminar. And this is in Romans chapter 8, verse 1. And it says this: There is therefore now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus, who walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. What means to be mature in the Spirit? It means to be guided by the Spirit. In the other Bible verse, also in Romans chapter 8, but verse 6 says, "For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is love and peace." Dear brothers and sisters, the fight in us is tremendous and much more evident and much more furious is this fight when courtship and marriage come closer to us. Because the carnal raised up and the spiritual have to put that under control. So between these two things, the fight and the battle gets furiously strong. But what means to be mature in the Spirit means that even in the time of courtship, we need to be able to control our physical, our carnal desires, and to put them under the control of the Spirit. If we're not able to do that, obviously we're not yet spiritually mature. To be guided by the Spirit is life and peace. This is the true love. Remember the example I gave you from the Bible. How Jacob, for example, he was supposed to marry, but he was not allowed to marry immediately. He had to work 7 years for his wife. And these 7 years passed by for him like 7 days. He didn't suffer, he didn't feel sick because of that, as the erotic love actually make you to be, but he had peace in his mind. He was full of joy, and that is the true love, dear brothers and sisters. This is the maturity in the Spirit, when the carnal passions are subdued and put under the control of the Spirit. Otherwise, we will surely face a tremendous problem, troubles and trials in our courtship, and later on also in our marriages. What will mean the maturity in the soul? We understand that the soul described many times our emotional parts, our feelings, our most of all describe our character. What kind of character we need to have in order to enter into marriage? You know, there is a very serious question: when is the time to enter in marriage? This is why we will have a specific topic about time and person. We would like to find out if the right time is there and the right person is there. But we will study that later. Now, when this maturity in soul, why this maturity in souls in the character is so important? You know, if we live our lives alone, without partner, without marriage partner, without a boyfriend, without girlfriend, either we live with our family, which means with my mother, father, and my brothers and sisters, or I live already alone by myself. If I'm not able, if I'm not ready, if I'm not mature enough to guide my life properly, I will not be able to guide my life in the family circumstances. If I am not sufficiently responsible, if I'm not strong spiritually to guide my life, if I don't know really what I believe, if I have doubt and problems in my faith, in my church relationship, in my relationship with God, much more that will be possible when I enter in marriage. Sometimes people say, okay, I'm weak in the faith, let's marry with somebody who is strong in the faith so he will help me. That does not work this way, because we need to support each other mutually. I remember one of the rules of the strongest army in the world, which is the Spartanians army in the Greek civilization, they have a special rule among their soldiers, because in the army everybody was supposed to defend not only himself but to defend his neighbor. They could not have a weak soldiers. Every soldier have to be at the level of maturity, of strength, and be able to manage the weapons that have been assigned to him in the level of the rest of the army, because one weak link of the chain make the whole chain weak, and one strong link in the chain does not make the rest of the chain powerful. This is why in the marriage one weak link does not make this marriage stronger, it's make it weaker. And if we permit that weakness enter into the marriage, this weakness will reflect tomorrow in the education of our children. In every weakness or every temptation to the family, this weakness will reveal, and it will be or grow up as a tremendous problem. This is why in order to reach maturity, we need to find out first if I am ready spiritually to face such a challenge, which marriage actually is. This is why we would like to consider some Bible verses here from Ephesians chapter 4, verse 13 and 14. Till we all come in the unity of the faith, and to the knowledge of the Son of God, into a perfect man, into the measure of the statures of fullness of Christ, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed and to fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, but the sleight of man, cunning, craftfulness, whether they lie and wait to deceive. It is important, brothers and sisters, that we have this maturity. Also in the 1 Corinthians 14:20 it says, Brethren, be not children in understanding, hobbled in malice by you children, but in understanding be man. We need to grow up to a man of understanding of the truth. We need to grow up to a solid character, a person that is formed in itself. It is formed not only on understanding, but also in decisions about the faith. Marriage can face us with many difficulties, trials, tribulations. We need to be able to face them. And we're going to see even more when we go to the next point how important this maturity in spirit, soul, and body is. The maturity in body is not just the maturity of a physical development, which everybody achieves in certain age. Also in different continents and different cultures, the maturity of a girl or maturity of a boy is considered to take place in different time and different age. I remember that in Latin America, 12, 14 or 15 years of age is considered already a full maturity for marriage. This is why many girls married in 14 years of age and 15 years of age, they have already children and build up a family. This will be something very strange in the background and culture of European, like German or Swedish culture. So there, or even in North American and Canadian culture, the time of maturity came first after 18 years of age. And this maturity is maturity according to the law, but the real maturity for marriage, the real physical maturity for a woman is about 22 to 24 years of age. Of course, the boys have another a way of development. The physical development reached also as by the girls and close to 14 years of age. But the mental and psychological development does not reach so quickly as the biological, as the physical development. It is needed for a boy to wait until he reaches to 25 to 27 years of age, until a boy really turns into a man and he can psychologically manage a family, be a really ruler and guider, be a real leader in his family circumstances. And so many times people run to a premature relationship and premature marriages. A boy also need to consider that it's not only to be married, but the responsibility related to a marriage are very high. That means that a boy need to be ready not only physically to have a wife, but also to provide for that wife, to provide for these children. And this is an important part of this seminar. But let's consider the text of this testimony. I think this is will be very beneficial for all of us. Immature marriages are productive of the worst among of the evils that exist today. Neither physical health nor mental vigor is promoted by the marriage that is entered into too early in life. Upon this subject, although too little reasons executed, many youth act from impulse. This step, which affect them seriously for good or ill, to be a lifelong blessing or curse, is too often taken hasty under the impulse of sentiment. What do we understand? That if a marriage takes place too early in life and we have not reached the maturity, the development in our body, in our mental and physical health, what is going to happen? We're not only going to harm ourselves by unhappy marriage, but we can also harm our health. And not only harming our health, but we are going to be a danger, we create a danger for the society. I can imagine that some people will say, but how is that possible, that we are going to be a danger of the society? If I married wrongly, I will suffer myself and maybe my wife, but not the society. But we are going to see, brothers and sisters, that the responsibility which we have entering courtship and marriage is not related just by you person and the person you falling in love or you are in courtship. The whole society will suffer consequences if you have a happy marriage or you have an unhappy marriage. How did that work? We're going to see that now with reading this testimony in Adventist Home, page 44. Those who are, let me move first to the higher place in the page. Yeah. Those who are contemplating marriage should consider that will be the character and influence of the home that they are founding. Excuse me. As they become parents, a sacred trust is committed to them. Which is this sacred trust we're going to see now. Upon them depends in a great measure the well-being of their children in this world and their happiness in the world to come. To the greater extent, they determine both the physical and the moral stamp that the little ones receive. This means that if we enter in premature marriage, if we're physically not yet developed, mentally not yet prepared for marriage, if we're angry, if we are spiritually immature, what is going to happen? Our children will receive this inheritance. They will be also physically, morally, or mentally not properly developed. And what is going to happen? This kind of tremendous consequence will multiply and multiply and repeat, and the society will be affected. The humanity will be affected in its portion. So we need to understand that the maturity, the bodily maturity or the physically maturity of our personality, of our body, it's also very, very important. Entering in marriage circumstances are very serious, and we're going to see that this affects not only our life on this earth, but also our eternal life. If you remember, in the one of the first testimonies we consider in this study, we talk about maturity in judgment. And I introduced a little bit to you why the maturity in judgment is important, and why the young people or immature people or teenagers intend often to take a wrong judgment. Let's consider this text here above us. This is a counsel that Sister White is writing to somebody. I'm sorry that you have integrated yourself in a courtship with Elizabeth. In the first place, your annexity upon the questions is perpetual. It's premature, excuse me. Your annexity upon these questions is premature. I speak to you as one who knows. Wait till you have some just knowledge of yourself and of the world, of the bearing of the character of a young woman, before you let the subject of marriage possess your thoughts. Very interesting testimony. What is the problem with the premature judgment? Often is not because we cannot realize who the other person is, which also is the problem, but mainly is the problem that we still don't know whom we are. Who am I? What kind of character do I have? And we mentioned already that in the teenager time is when we really decide whom we are and what do we want to be. And this is the time when the biggest changes in our character takes place. I remember when I was small, about 7 and 8 years of age, and my school was very much taught and promoted by the teachers, this Sky program, and all the kids, we were dreaming to become astronauts. And I was dreaming how I'm going to learn and how I'm to teach and how I will fly into space, and it was very nice dreaming to it. But later on, when I reached to a teenager age, I began thinking that this idea of being astronaut is childish. It's worthless. I don't really want to fly into space. And there were other kids that continue having this desire. They wanted to be a pilot, and they wanted to be something else. But in my case, I really wanted to be at the floor. I didn't want to fly so much. So as you see, a tremendous change in our understanding of what is important and what is not important take place. What kind of profession we're going to choose, what kind of gifts we want to develop, which is the ideal image which we will build in our mind what I want to be, how I want to look like. This is what we are building up in the teenager time. And what happened many times, brothers and sisters, is if the person missed this opportunity to build up his character, his understanding, his personality, in this important time, he will perhaps have to do that much later. And that will bring him to a tremendous disbalance in the rest of his life. But we don't want to enter in a psychological counseling right now. We would like to see in the topic of marriage. If we do not know whom we are, we can much less know what we want to be. And we don't know whom we have to elect and who really match to my character. Another important topic for preparation and maturity is the maturity for marriage. This is a very strange and very interesting topic. I haven't heard much or many people talking about this, but we find this case in the Bible. And we have that in Genesis chapter 24, verse 67. And this is the case of Isaac. And Isaac brought her into her mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Now, what happened is that Isaac was a young man, but he didn't want to marry until his mother didn't pass away. And we're going to see, if you read Patriarchs and Prophets, you're going to see a little more about this topic, how he really was comforted, or he really desired to marry first after his mother passed away, not before that. Which means that often in our life happen that we are not yet ready for marriage. We do not really desire marriage. And many times we run into courtship and run into marriage not because we want to marry, but because somebody else push us to marriage. I remember when I come to church, I was about 24, 25 years of age, and several pastors and some of them good friends of mine, they come to me and say, you know, you're not married. You know, this girl, the other girl, look here, look there, you know, you can, you know, if you ask this girl, she will not say you know. You know, they wanted to help me. And I was not interested in marriage. I was not interested. Not only I was not interested, I was scared into that of marriage because of different friends and people I knew that they marry unhappily, and they had a tremendous bad experience in marriage. Not only that, but I was feeling like marriage is a prison for people. I was feeling like pity to the married friends, that they were like slaves for me, you know. They have to serve their wives, they have to call the wife, you know, excuse me, I will be late this evening, and then the wife maybe sometimes get him, and so you always are late, and they have to humble themselves and say, sorry, but I could not do anything, I have to work, and the wife will shout at him, and he have to, you know, go like a cat in this belly on the floor, and I was feeling so much pity to these married people, and I was saying, come on, I don't want to be such a slave. I want to be free man. I want to travel. I want to know the world. I want to study. What is that for a thing? And if I would marry at that age, I can tell you that the marriage will be for me like a prison. It will be like a limitation of my freedom. I will not like it at all. And what will happen with this girl or these women that I will marry with? She will turn to me like an obstacle in my life. And this is a terrible curse, brothers and sisters. Be very careful to really reach the maturity of marriage. The same things happen with many girls. I remember one conversation with certain one sister in the church, and there were some questions. Sister, when are you going to marry? You already advanced in your age. And she will say, who made you wash the stinky socks of the man? No, I won't want to marry. Of course, it's better not to marry. If you are in this condition, if you consider that is a tremendous sacrifice for you to marry, it is better not to marry. You are not yet mature for marriage. You are not ready for marriage. I personally have to reach the age of 30, 32. That is the time when I really began to think about family, that is good to set down, to have children, to have a home. And now I'm calling my wife and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to come late. And I don't feel that that is a kind of burden. I don't feel myself as a slave, because I love this kind of life I have now. But I did not love this kind of life some years ago, because I was not mature. I did not achieve. I did not climb up to the maturity of marriage. I was not ready to love. And there are so many people, brothers and sisters, out there that are immature to love. And they enter into marriage. They don't know what love is. They don't really love their partners. They enter into the marriage just because they're forced to, just because somebody else told them, if you don't marry, you're losing the train. You will lose the train, and then wait, who knows if somebody will come and look for you. And there is no any recipe for that. There are people in 30, there are people in 50, there are people even in 70 years of age, and they have not really learned what love is, and they do not desire to enter into the marriage. What is the problem? Don't force them. Let them stay as they are. A bad marriage is 10 times worse than a be not married. And that is, many people don't realize that. The hell of it, to be married unhappily, it's terrible, it's furious. That's what the testimony says in the introduction of that subject. Better reach maturity. Look if you are ready to love. Answer this question, because before you enter in any relationship, remember this study. We need to reach maturity, we need to reach responsibility, and we need to reach a self-control. We will close this topic today with a maturity, but after a break we will continue with the next topic. Are you ready to love? Part 2, considering the next 2 points, responsibility and self-control. But let's think about and try to answer at the question, are you ready to love? Are you mature? Are you mature in the spirit? Are you mature in the soul? Are you mature in your body? Are you really ready to enter into these responsible things, what is courtship and marriage? I would like to remind you, if you like this seminar, if you like these topics, please send me an email and register. It is very important to me to know who you are, to know what do you think about this seminar. Send me a short line, just whom you are, which church you are, or from which country you come from. I would like to have the statistic, and also if I have your email, I can send you another invitations for other seminars which we're producing here in the American Union or at the General Conference level. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and don't forget, courtship and marriage requires maturity. The Lord bless you. Amen.